Dr.Susan Feneck, and I'm here with Matt Zirkle, and he's going to be talking about suicide awareness and prevention. And what we talk about on the Juvenile Justice Impact podcast is how to help and heal and educate and inspire, and he has a really unbelievable story about some events that he's overcome and how he feels his story can help other people heal. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So tell us right before we started videoing, we were talking about some of your childhood and something took a really big turn for the worse, and we're going to discuss that and how you overcame everything.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Chicago, 28 years there, had a really amazing childhood. Probably one of the last generations of kids that lived outside, riding our bikes, playing baseball, typical.
Those were the days.
They really were. Typical Sandlot-esque, group of guys. A lot of them I still talk to today.
Nice.
And, just a picture perfect childhood, I absolutely loved every day, never really had a bad day, didn't really know what that really even meant. And as time went on, I was very into sports, football, baseball. High school came along, I was the starting quarterback in high school, did really well in baseball, and was really looking forward to college. I jump-started right after high school and started summer classes and wanted to get a jump on college as soon as I could. The plan was at the time, I had a girlfriend of 4 years, and our plan was to just go to a local school for like a year or so and then transfer to a university.
Like a community college?
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I went. That's where I started.
I mean, why pay full price for gen ed, right?
No, seriously, we would just be like, because a lot of us, we didn't know, we weren't sure what path we were going to go down. We're like, all right, let's start out here, and that's
Sure.
where a lot of us really, had our springboard into, furthering our education.
Yeah, so same here. And really, my plan was to become a history teacher. I've always loved history, and the three of us were going to transfer to University in Illinois, and really simple plan.
East Coast education. I'll put a little plug in there for that.
So, I had, we lived in a small house, two bedroom, one bath, which I will never do again. The one bath is rough, but we made it. It was my older brother and younger sister and my parents, and really just, again, had an amazing time growing up. And then, something came about and really changed my life. 6 days before 9/11, which everyone remembers where they were at,
Mm-hmm.
and things that were happening in your life at that time. My sister, which, I was 18, she was 17 at the time, she took her life on September 5th, 2001.
And I'm so sorry. And just so that everyone knows, we've spoken about this in detail previous to this show, and I can't say how sorry I am for what you experienced. And he's told this story to me previously, and it's just so heart-wrenching.
I appreciate that. I woke up that day, and I was supposed to go to class in the morning, and I woke up to my dad already on the phone with 911, and I knew when I went up those steps that day, my life would never be the same, and it was really hard. I had to say goodbye to her. We didn't know any. She didn't leave a note. She didn't.
And there was no signs, no.
We knew that she was depressed, but you never in a million years think that someone's going to take their life.
Especially with sounds like a very supportive family. And
yeah, she really struggled. Hindsight's 20/20, but it didn't just affect me personally. It was really kind of like a bomb that went off and really affected the entire community.
Sure.
A lot of people knew our family. I played quarterback. My older brother, he was also the quarterback in high school, so the community knew us pretty well, and it was kind of a shockwave that went off in the whole community. And I'm the one that called her school and told them the news that day. I had to call my brother, who lived in Las Vegas at the time, and being 18 years old, I didn't have any life experience. I mean, I never even had a flat tire at that point. And seeing my mom that day, really changed me. I've never had kids, but seeing a parent lose a child was very, very intense and really changed me.
Changed the whole family.
It really did. And so, and she also chose to do it on my brother's original wedding day, so it was something she planned out. It wasn't just a random act, so she was definitely struggling with a lot of things. And all my friends are in college at this point, and it's before the social media boom, so
right.
I couldn't really broadcast my feelings out, and became really isolated and depressed, without any life experience. And I didn't grow up with religion or church or anything like that, so didn't really have any foundation to help me through it.
How did your family cope? I mean, do you feel like it brought your family closer together?
I think we were all kind of going in our own directions. My mom and I, we were definitely very close during those times. We talked at the, dining room table every night about, how we gonna get through this. And, it seems to be the case when people suffer a loss, is, your friends and family, they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, and especially a tragedy to that degree. So in a short period of time, we're not only grieving my sister, but we're grieving, now we're considered like aliens to our friends and family who see the pain in us.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that your friends and family, you said you feel like aliens. I mean, why were they not? Did you feel like they were taking steps away from you as opposed to coming towards you and helping you?
Exactly. Yeah. I think because of the severity of the tragedy, right? The uniqueness of it. It wasn't like and I'm not lessening someone dying from cancer or anything like that, but it was such a shock wave that went through the whole community and our family that I don't think people really knew how to act and to talk to us. And so within a couple months, everyone was gone, and it was really hard to deal with that, and as more time went on, 18, 19, 20 years old, my mom started going to a spiritualist church where they, started talking about spiritualism. I was really reluctant at first, but I went all the way to the line in my own mind with taking my own life. With suicide, it's so, you look at yourself in a mirror and you ask yourself, was I really a good brother? You think about different arguments you had with them and they become magnified, right? There's a microscope on them that wasn't there before.
Sure.
Most siblings, they fight all the time, right? and they get through it. But when something like this happens, it becomes a very tough situation to get through and cope with. So, as I went through my sister's room, I found out that she was an amazing writer. She had a depth to her that I didn't know about. And it's just, it saddened me at the time that she was so, depressed that she felt she couldn't share anything with anyone, and my hope in telling my story is that, anyone that's dealing with depression, anyone that's considering suicide, to have the courage to, reach out to a family member, reach out to a friend. If I would have known, what my sister was thinking about, I would have stopped everything I was doing to try and help her,
And it's something that, when people are struggling with depression and mental health, it's a topic that people just not always are inviting or, want to get close to, because there's like this stigma somehow still. And, we had one of the people that we had on the show previously, his daughter was going to come on and talk about a similar topic, and she just felt embarrassed. And we were all scheduled, we were set to come on last week sometime, and but that's kind of like a small example of how, I says, well, geez, maybe, she could use the story to inspire, and she was all for it, and so wasn't the father, and at the last minute she just felt bad about it.
Sure.
And it's just a small example of, I think, what you're talking about. And people, like you were saying, 800,000 people take their lives every year, and there's so many prevention programs and so many ways that people can get help, but taking that one step to get to that door to get the help,
right,
is so difficult for a lot of people.
It really is, unfortunately. Mental health, depression, it's real. When you get into that rut and you feel that there's no hope and everything is dark and it feels like a storm is just following you around every day. I lived that. I went there in my mind. I could feel exactly how my sister felt, wanting to not be here anymore. The adrenaline and anxiety mixed with depression just flowing through you every day. I don't know if you've seen the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, but that's what my mom and I would, talk about, is we're like stuck in a moment, and you keep replaying that day.
Yeah.
And you think about, what could I have done better? And you ask the word why, 1,000 times, and again, she didn't leave a note. We had no clue. My brother's wedding was coming up. Everything from an outsider's perspective looked great, and so it's just one of those things where, I told my mom I didn't want to be here anymore, and I had the courage to tell her, and I can only imagine what she was thinking, like, I'm going to lose another child because of this, and I just couldn't go through with it, thinking, having my parents go through this for a second time.
Right.
And that's when things started to shift for me. I was very desperate, so I started to get into things that I normally wouldn't get into. Spiritualism. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power Now, and that changed my life personally. Thinking about living in the moment, in the spiritual little, I don't know if you call it church, but it was people that were just talking about how to cope and deal with things, and the word eternity is really what kind of resonated with me, knowing that I might be able to see my sister again and make the situation right.
And speaking of which, speaking of a book that changed your life, and previous to coming on this evening, he had discussed how he wants to write a book, and think about the piece of work that you put out, and how that's going to help so many people as well.
It's always
and
been.
And then you could always put in the book some of your sister's writings, right?
Absolutely. I found a poem that she wrote and submitted it to, I think it was poetry.com or something. It was like 20 years ago.
Right. I remember poetry.com.
Yeah, and she won one of these contests
Nice.
for kids under 18. I never told them what happened with her, but she was an amazing writer. A depth that you normally don't see in a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And
you still have them?
I still have them. It's something I'll never not have, and I read them every so often.
Nice.
Especially around the anniversary, and but again, I don't have any of the answers that drove me into grief. I don't have the answers to the why, right? I started looking at things different. I forced myself to start looking at things differently. Wayne Dyer, one of the best quotes that he says is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? And it may not mean anything to someone that is hurting so bad, but at some point you have to make a decision to start moving in another direction. Get out of your comfort zone and force yourself to do something you may not be comfortable with doing, but give yourself a chance and see what happens. My dream was always to find a person like my wife, which I found, thankfully, and just have a normal, relaxed, peaceful life. And I believe when you get through that eye of the storm, you give yourself a chance, things do change for you.
They do. And looking at the experiences that I've had and the people that I've met along my journey, it's just so incredible. I mean, you were even speaking of some of the podcasts that we've had, people that have overcome some incredible tragedies, and it just, sometimes it's that one word or one phrase or one moment that you realize that you do have the strength within you to overcome it. Now, going back to your family, did anyone ever rekindle any of those relationships where they felt like they kind of took a step back?
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of it was self-inflicted as well. Being in that depression hole and grief, I'm sure I wasn't exactly the most approachable person.
Right.
And again, prior to social media, there weren't, an abundance of ways to connect with people.
Sure.
You had to leave a message on their answering machine, and
the phone with the cord.
Right. So it was a little more difficult to connect with people, and so I think it was just kind of the perfect storm, and creating isolation. But thankfully, my mom, really took me with her to these meetings and started connecting with different people that started changing the way that I think, and kind of poured a foundation of spiritualism that I carry with me today. I honestly never thought I would be able to get through it. It was so intense for me, and it wasn't until I started going to these meetings for people that lost someone by suicide.
Can you let the audience know what meetings you're speaking of, in case there's anyone out there who's listening, they might be able to get the same help that you did?
Sure. It depends, I guess, where you're at in the country. I'm not sure if they're, all over the country. I know they were here in Vegas and Chicago, and it was loss. Loved ones survived by a suicide. The one in Chicago, Catholic Charities ran that. And, the first time I went there, it was an 8-week group, and there was 9 women. I was the only male, and everyone in that group had lost a sibling from suicide. And it was the first time I actually talked about my feelings. I felt validated, that I wasn't that alien that I felt, And there was one girl in this group, her name was Tanya, and we all went around the room and talked about, you know, our personal loss, and she talked about how she had lost 2 brothers. And I had never felt more compassion and empathy to someone, and like just having those connections with like-minded people that went through a traumatic situation similar to mine really kind of changed the game for me.
Sure.
To know that there's other people I can reach out to, and again, you have to make that decision to get help.
And it's a hard decision to make, because you feel like you're in this hole almost, right? And you're just looking up, and it just looked like there's no way up, but there is a way up. And thank God you're able to, you know, have your mom help you and bring you to these support groups and get you to where you are today. And what other advice would you give to people listening? Because we want to, you know, the whole point of these podcasts is to help, to heal, to educate, to motivate.
Sure.
You know, and these are the type of podcasts that we have the opportunity to speak with someone like yourself, to let other people know that they're not alone.
Right. You know, you have to have the courage to reach out to people close to you. And there's nothing wrong with feeling the way that you're feeling. You know what I mean? Being suicidal is an extremely intense situation. And the people that are in your life, you may not see eye to eye with them, but when you start talking about how in-depth your personal emotions are with depression and all that, you have to have that courage to talk about it and take that first step. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. It's something
it's
that
a process.
It is a process, but things change over time. Everything is temporary. Every good emotion and every bad emotion in life is temporary, and you have to know that the depression you're feeling is temporary, as much as it may not feel that way. You know, depression passes just like your wedding day and the most amazing moments you have in life. Those are also temporary. And, you know, people that take their own life, they get caught up in that pain, and they don't think that it's temporary. You know, that maybe they've never seen that light at the end of the tunnel. They've never gotten through one of those ruts before. So to really know that, you know, your pain is temporary, and there are people that, like myself, that are going to be in these loss meetings that have been through it, that can help you get through it. So
I'm so grateful that you found that help and support in your life. And we're having a Healthy Minds workshop coming up next month, and I would love to have you invite both you and your wife to that workshop and really get to know some of the people that are there. Because we even have like Mrs. Nevada. She speaks openly about you know, some of the mental health struggles that her mom had, and how she's inadvertently, because of that, become a mental health advocate. And
Absolutely.
She was there last year, and she's checking her calendar right now to see if she can make it this year as well, next month. And it'd be great to have you there.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Because we talk about suicide prevention, depression, even though you might not feel suicidal or be depressed, how to handle someone who does.
Sure.
Right? And that's a big thing, right? Because look at all the people that alienated you.
All right.
And so we talk about the warning signs, we talk about what to do. We had SafeNest there last year as well, and they talked about, you know, their different hotlines and who they can go to in the community to get help. And it's critical, especially these past 2 years with everything going on with COVID and so many people passing away and losing their jobs and just everything. It's just been such a heavy few years.
It really has.
You know, and just for everyone, for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, this you know, unique situation with COVID has you know, everyone that was already struggling, you know, it dug that hole even deeper.
Yeah.
You know, isolation isn't healthy for anyone. And I think that's, as a friend or a family member, to be proactive with the people in your life. Never assume that, that person's doing okay,
That's for sure.
Definitely, look outside yourself and ask yourself, am I that good friend that I want to be? Can I do anything else to help the people in my life?
Sure.
All it takes is one person to reach out, and who knows, they could have been on the edge, with staying here and going. And you just never know, that text or that phone call, what that can do to the person in your life that could be struggling that you don't know anything about.
Sure. No, I agree 100%. I mean, even daily, I know some friends that are going through some challenges, and I'll just send a message, hey, good morning, just let you know I'm thinking about you. I hope you have a day that's as awesome as you. And one of my friends was like, oh my God, this just like changed my whole day. Thank you. And I didn't know what was going on, specifically that one day, but I know that there's been challenges, and she just had mentioned that text message really changed her whole day and her outlook. Just knowing you have that one person that's thinking about you. We all know that we have people thinking about us, and we all have friends and family and so on and so forth, but just getting that message, changed her whole thought process for the day.
I mean, feeling alone and feeling depressed, that's a terrible feeling, and to be that person that someone can rely on. I mean, that's what everyone wants, right? Is to have someone they can reach out to
Trust.
when they're struggling. And you just, if you're feeling good, you got to be proactive with the people in your life, and really, don't assume that everyone's doing great,
In relationships, no matter what they are, personally, professionally, they all take work, right? And you always want to put in that little extra effort to let anyone in your life know that you're thinking about them, or I'll send a text message, hey, thank you so much, for supporting me, no matter what it was, on any topic, just thank you. I thank my friends all the time, and how much I appreciate them all the time, and it just makes such a difference, and it brings your bond closer.
It goes a very long way, especially, like you said, the last couple of years have been a struggle for many, many people. So don't take it for granted. Don't assume that everyone in your life is great, because there's nothing worse than feeling alone when you're already depressed and you're wondering, where are these people in my life? Minimizing that alone feeling for someone else. You just never know how far that depression is in someone.
With this book that you're inspiring to write, what are some of the topics, like if you can give us the name of 3 chapters, what do you think they would be?
I think the eye of the storm is definitely one of them. The dark night of the soul, people probably heard that term. You only go through it once.
Yeah.
And if you can get through it, that strength that you have stays with you no matter what, in anything in life. And you feel like there's nothing you can't get through, I think another chapter would be just your thoughts, and how many stories we play in our minds, and our reality is really what you make of it in your mind.
Sure.
And how powerful your thoughts can be. Circling back to my sister, I still don't have all the answers as to any of the answers as to why she did that. But I just changed my thoughts, changed my thinking. And again, it doesn't happen overnight, but, the power of your thoughts, change everything inside of you. You can be as happy or as depressed as you make your mind up to be. And even if you're not happy, try something that's different, that might change the course of things. And
Anything.
You never know what could happen,
Well, thank you so much. If you don't mind, is there a way that people can get a hold of you if they want to email you or contact you some way? Because, this has been very inspiring, and I think I know, for the listeners, the people that are listening, and the people that are going to be able to watch this video on YouTube, how can they get a hold of you if they want to just say, maybe someone wants to reach out to you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to send me an email, my email is Matt Zirkle 82, MAATT Z as in zebra, IRKLE 82 @gmail.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And for all of you who would like to get a hold of any one of our teams at Juvenile Justice Impact, we can be reached at juvenilejusticeimpact@gmail.com, or you can visit our website at www.impactjji.com. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And I can't tell you, he's just such a what's it called, salt of the earth, the Italians used to say, and his beautiful wife. And we had the opportunity to meet last week, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And
I appreciate you having me.
We'll have you on when you're the New York Times #1 bestseller, right? We'll be buying your books.
I hope so.
Anyway, well, if there's anything else you would like to add or comment on?
No, I appreciate you having me on. Again, it's a tough subject to talk about, and hopefully my story can help others to start being a little more proactive about it. So,
I believe it will. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you both for coming here. And he brought his beautiful wife with him this evening as well. So thank you both for coming, and thank you for sharing, and we'll have you on again.
Thank you so much.